to something which you may not be used to here on the Lionel Legal channel. Let me bring you up to speed on this. I'm normally on the Lionel Nation channel. This is Lionel Legal. And on the Lionel Legal channel, I'm able to speak with you and talk to you more from the viewpoint of legal issues and the like. I like to balance out the two, kind of build up both channels, but focus a little bit more on cases from a lawyerly legal point of view, as opposed to my usual stuff, which is a little bit of everything, a little bit of, whatever you want to call it. So first of all, welcome. Let me ask you if I could, very, very, very much young friends, to if you could and you would, please subscribe to this channel. Your subscriptions matter, and your liking them, it matters tremendously, so for people to understand and grasp this. Just when I think I figured out that every permutation of the Epstein case has been decided, I realize not even close. Not even close. There's something else. And there's a momentum that is going on, that is happening, and I don't think people necessarily recognize how to handle this and what it means. The Jeffrey Epstein case is one of the most fascinating issues, bar none, for reasons that I will try my best to explain to you, but I don't know if I can. It has sex, it has intrigue, it has a kind of a intel base to it, because you love intel. Our people love intel stuff, love it. Our people just can't get enough of intel and all this other kind of jazz. And the reason for it is because I think it's kind of who we are, so to speak. Because when I first came upon this, when I was red-pilled in 2001, it was during the 9/11 years. And consequently, it was 9/11 that brought me to the game, so to speak. And specifically through the period of Alex Jones and when the whole period was better than anything I can remember. It was so interesting and so fascinating. The world was wide open. The internet was wide open. It was just absolutely, it was brilliant. It was absolutely beyond brilliant, and how much I appreciated so much to be a part of that at the time. Well, anyway, later on things changed. Things kind of calmed down a little bit, and lo and behold, matters were different, and things kind of calmed down. But then from that were these people who came out of nowhere who basically loved the idea of thinking they were secret agents. And they really do. There's a fellow named Eric Weinstein. Eric Weinstein, I don't know if you know who he is or you followed him. Eric Weinstein probably is the most full of shit person who maybe has ever lived. And I say that, who has ever lived, because he loves for you, and he loves to think that he is a part of some incredibly important and critical like these dangerous people, this super duper ultra uber mathematician who holds the secrets to the universe, the Leo Szilard of our time. And he really thinks he is. Anyway, he likes to play the intel story. Everybody loves the intel story. So the question is, and the first question I have for you, dear friends, is very simply this. And by the way, thank you and welcome to the circus. The first question is, people are saying repeatedly, what is it that was fair about Ghislaine Maxwell And how was Ghislaine Maxwell, how was she in prison for doing what she did? The question is, what specifically was Ghislaine Maxwell convicted of? Was she charged with trafficking? What specifically was she found guilty of? First question. Because if you don't know that question, you can't answer anything else. Okay? People are saying all the time, what is she doing in prison? With whom and to whom did she traffic? Did you hear this? Let's look at what she was convicted of. She was found guilty of 5 different events. 5 different. Sex trafficking of a minor related to the recruitment and grooming of a 14-year-old girl for Epstein's abuse. Okay? The next one is count 2, transporting a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. This was traveling across state lines with a minor knowing they would be abused, in essence. The third was conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of minors. Conspiracy. Working with Epstein to traffic multiple underage girls. Conspiracy to transport minors with the intent for criminal sexual activity, not trafficking. And conspiracy to entice minors to travel. So the question is, when one is charged or convicted of trafficking, must they enumerate, must they list, must they state the names of those people trafficked to? Does that make any sense? Must they be, must we know the names of to whom she intended to traffic? And I submit no. Same thing goes when you're charged with drug trafficking. You don't have to list the names of the people who are going to get the drugs. So what's interesting is when someone is charged with or convicted of a sex trafficking, must prosecutors name the individuals who were trafficked or the individuals they were trafficked to? As far as the victims, yes. Victims, in most criminal cases, the victims are identified. For example, Jane Doe number 1, Jane Doe number 2, just like you were charged with trafficking in cocaine. You're trafficking in fentanyl. You're charged with trafficking in. So we have to say what you are trafficking in. But the question is, and this is the most important, the question is, what about the names of the people that you traffic somebody to? For example, if I am charged with trafficking cocaine, do I have to list or state the names of the people I sell the drugs to? The answer is no. Under current U.S. law, a trafficking conviction does not require the government to identify or prosecute the people who received or abused the victims. In other words, the prosecution must prove that the defendant knowingly recruited, transported, or facilitated the exploitation of a minor for sex, not necessarily who exactly committed the abuse. So, was it legally permissible for Ghislaine Maxwell to be convicted without naming the clients? Yes. That's how it was done. Morally and logically, it's bizarre. She was convicted of trafficking children to no one. The law allows it, but it leaves a glaring public accountability gap. The abusers, clients, or buyers remain unnamed and uncharged. The bottom line is the law does not require the prosecutor's name under the individuals to name to whom the victim was trafficked. So this is one of the things that people are saying. And this is what, for example, Joe Rogan is making a big deal. Joe Rogan he has a big story. Joe Rogan said, "Oh, look at this. This is incredible." Joe Rogan says, "Aha! Why is she in prison if she doesn't?" Well, the answer is, as I said, Joe never read the indictment. And if there is one thing that I want you to understand, dear friend, if there's one thing that I want you to grasp and fully, truly understand, I want you to be able to understand that you have to research this. And it's very, very simple. You can understand everything and anything that's going on. Let me give you an example of something. This has really nothing to do with this, sort of, but maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Let me see if I can explain this. Yesterday we were talking about the president now, President Trump. Their reporting has a number of issues regarding his legs, his ankles. They're swollen. They look inordinately swollen. I mean, like his shoes are basically like Eddie, that was Eddie Murphy or Chris Rock. I think Chris Rock said, it looks like, he said, like black women's shoes, he says, sometimes when they wear smaller shoes than they actually should, their feet are jammed in, it looks like bread rising. I thought that was such a great analogy, such a great way. It's like bread rising. Okay. So, when I was talking yesterday, people were saying, well, you know, swollen legs is edema, and nobody picked up a pad. Nobody picked up anything. Nobody said, let me look into this and find out specifically what is it. And by the way, there's this venous reflux, which is oftentimes the case. This is when blood goes up from the legs up to the heart, and then that particular lip, that particular valve is weakened or whatever. It opens, and the blood travels back in this kind of a reflux position. And there are certain things you can do. But I just spent 10 minutes, maybe, spending a few minutes kind of understanding the anatomy of the leg, understanding how sometimes exercise can help by virtue of the calf constricting, forcing the blood up. I'm not an expert, but I kind of got an idea of what we're looking at maybe. Some of it might be cardiac related, some of it might not. But the point is, I spent a little bit of time doing it. Other people don't do this. They just start opining about stuff. So if there's one thing, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, one thing I can tell you about is always ask yourself, do I know enough about this? Should I maybe review kind of what the story is? Should I maybe spend a little time researching? Like, what exactly was Ghislaine Maxwell convicted of? And what are people charged with? And I can ask, and ChatGPT is one of the greatest means there is. So, whatever it is, whatever your question is, make sure you spend just a nominal amount of time just investigating it. We see here, Oliver says, did her appeal get delayed again? I don't know if it was her appeal. I think she wants the Supreme Court, or I think the Second District, maybe perhaps I got to check this, to reveal whether the immunity deal, if you recall correctly, when Alexander Acosta was the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, if you recall this, he had this deal, he had this thing going on, which is very interesting, where he said that people, this was wild, that Jeffrey Epstein, pursuant to signing this agreement in the Southern District of Florida, that all of his co-conspirators or potential co-conspirators were immunized, were granted immunity, could not be charged again. Now, was that Ghislaine? Could be. Was it Ghislaine? Maybe. So she's saying later, she says, you can't charge me. A court ruled that agreement only applied to the Southern District of New York, which is interesting. Follow me on this. In cases where a federal judge in, let's say, Virginia ruled against a particular statute or a bill or a law that President Trump signed into office, or signed into effect, rather, they said it applied across the country. And one of this case that this recent Supreme Court case said, no, you can't do that. So interestingly enough, Ghislaine was saying, that's the deal I want. If I sign this deal in the Southern District of Florida, I think it should apply across the country too. And they said, no. That immunity only applies to Florida. Meaning the federal Southern District, or maybe the courts, the federal courts of Florida perhaps, or maybe just the Southern District of Florida. Anyway, so they said, no, this immunity deal does not apply to you, and therefore you can be charged with this. Okay, fine. Fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. So, no. But what I'm trying to say, perhaps maybe, learn a little bit about what she's charged with. And she's also trying to make a case to the Supreme Court. Now, she is also, which is the most important, he also is, or she's looking at, something which is important, which is very, very critical. Let's see if I can explain this to you. She's trying to ask the question, or people are asking, if she wants to come forward, does she risk her life doing this? What do you think? Do you think she risks her life, or is all of that nonsense? Is that over with? Do you believe she risks her life? Do you believe that she risks her life? Do you? What do you think? Do you think there's any possibility, if she were to come forward and say, okay, the following people, the following big names were a part of this, the following big names were involved in my world, in my whatever, the following big names, do you think she risks being whacked? John Doe says it's Regina or Regina Marie's birthday. She's a big fan. Regina or Regina or Regina, happy birthday to you. From all of us here at Lionel Legal. Thank you very much for that. My question is, you think they could whack her? Zigzag says, yeep. He says, yeep. Hangman's noose on a bun. We call him, noose on a bun. That is the word for the black art of poisonings, where particularly people in prisons themselves can find themselves susceptible to that poisoning. Do you think they could possibly do it again? The Rusin says Trump has heart failure, ? He's not acting like himself. Why would heart failure? You mean heart disease? Trump does not have heart failure. Pro Se Savage, thank you, my friend. Did Trump get the jab? Trump is approaching 80 years old. Look up a little bit of when you get, how many of you find people notice that if you're on your feet a lot, your legs may be swelling, that if you're going to be doing something long enough, there are these wonderful things called compression socks. They're really good. Have you ever done that before? Compression socks are, I tried them. I thought, I don't like they're great. They really grab you, they don't hurt, but you have to have the 20, I forget what the particular milligrams of mercury, there's a particular pressure instance. But anyway, heart failure? No, there's no evidence of heart failure. Government deconstruction of evidence is all the more reason to examine the case publicly. The president has to understand and has to recognize the fact that when he wants to review this, there are going to be people from the Biden administration that say, we have our files, and our files are such, and our version of the facts are such that they deal with a version of this that maybe you have not. Meaning, we have victims. Now let me ask you something. Do you believe there is a list? Do you believe there is a list that the president has, or anybody has, of victims? Yes or no? I say this repeatedly, and I say it again. Good to see you, my good friend Fred Haddad Jr., my friend. I spend my days feet up, reclining due to swollen feet. See? It's a very... Read about this wonderful thing called reflux, how the blood... And also, one of the best things you can do is to exercise, to walk. You might want to check with your doctor, check blood pressure. Diuretics may help, weight loss. A lot of things can help this. It's not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. Sometimes it's just normal. They destroyed those files years ago. Yes, there is a black book at the center of the controversy. Mo Sneedley, what do you think the black book says? What do you think the black book says? What? Give me an example. What does the black book say? Give me an example. What does it say? Page 1. Let's say, I'm not suggesting this, but let's say it's Bill Gates, all right? Again, I'm not suggesting Bill Gates was a predator, but let's just assume, just for the sake of argument. What does it say? Bill Gates, what? I won't know until it is released, thus the problem. No, Mo, you said there is a black book at the center, and then you say, well, I don't know until you release it. No, you said it exists. So according to you, you know it exists, so there's no need to release anything because you know it's there. There is no list anywhere that he would have of names and victims and that sort of thing. There is no list. There is no mafia list. There is no list of the 5 families. Who was made, who was straightened out, who got their button, who got their badge, who sponsored these people, who was replaced, who died, the official numbers, the size. The mafia was so interesting, the LCN, whatever you want to call it, the American version of this, that if it wasn't until they actually took pictures from the Ravenite and other particular meetings, they didn't really know who was who. And the story is, they said that when Gotti and others demanded or ordered that people show up to pay homage, that the FBI stood there with binoculars and realized, oh my God, look who's in their family. That they didn't know this. So the question is, do you think sunlight is the best disinfectant? Only pros say if there's something there to expose. There is no list of all the people. It doesn't exist. The list would be the files of all of the victims who themselves were a part of this. That's the file you want. Meaning, Jane Doe sits down and says, welcome, I'm the investigator from the Southern District of New York. Maybe I'm the FBI. Were you yourself trafficked? Yes, I was. Would you define that? Were you involved in this at an early age? Were you whom were you sold to? Or not sold, but involved in? How long did this take place? Did you complain? That's my list. That's what the prosecutors have. Not a list of these people. Everything would have been presented, filed, packaged, sent on to, if you believe, Mossad, or whatever the particular group is that you are dealing with. They would have sent this elsewhere. Does that make sense to you? They would have a list of it. So there is no list. There is no black book. There is no client list. There is no, it doesn't exist. It doesn't, because they would, Epstein, these files were sent on, cataloged, looked at, assuming this was a black bag, intel organization, whatever you want to call it, if that were true. Assuming that to be true. I promise you, for example, let's assume this week, I'm Mossad, CIA. I take this hard drive, I wrap it up, I send it to my courier, we send it up to headquarters, and we start again. We don't have in our closet years and years and decades of whatever it is that's been accumulated. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Now, what you have to do is this. When you answer something, not that you have to, but when you make an opinion, ask yourself the question, do I really, really understand what's going on here? This started in before, maybe 2005. This is over 20 years old. Some of these girls they're now in their 40s. Some might be 50s. The only thing we really care about are women who were themselves minors. That's all we care about. Everybody else we really don't care about. Because it's the minors that are the problem. That's the issue. That's the issue. Nobody else. I hate to break it to you, but so how many minors do you think were there? Well, they say there might be a total of about 125, 150, maybe, or up to 1,000. We don't even know the number of people who themselves were either worked as a masseuse or who were underage. I don't know, it's hard to say. The total compensation package for everybody might be in excess of $850,000. $8,000 million, pardon me, maybe almost 900, approaching just south of $1 billion. So there were a lot of people involved in this. Do you think these people are going to come forward? They've already signed NDAs. They've already agreed to be compensated. One of the terms of the compensation agreement is that you sign an NDA, you sign a release, you can't bring this up anymore. You think they're going to do this? No, of course not. It's over. It is done. Okay? So here's what we're going to do, my friends. First, I want to thank you for joining this new thing. I might try this for a while because I want to, again, direct some attention. I want to build this Lionel legal channel up. You have been terrific. I appreciate this. I thank everyone in your opinions as to what's going on. Remember one final story. Everything going on with Epstein is thanks to Pam Bondi. I like her a lot, but all of this was done, forgotten, moved along because of Pam Bondi. Okay? Just remember that. We were pretty much done with it. We were used to the whole thing. We kind of understood and grasped the whole notion of, wow, we're never going to get to the bottom of this. It's in the past, time to move on. All of that was brought up. Dan Bongino is a little punk for claiming he was going to quit the Trump administration or quit unless, I guess, something happens to Pam Bondi. You don't do this in public. He leaked that on purpose. He wants to show everybody how important he is. And Kash Patel, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's just buggy. I am so profoundly unimpressed with most of people in Trump's cabinet. And that's a political issue, which, of course, the legal and the political are working together. All right, dear friends, thank you so much. Right now, in 5 minutes, I'm going to be going to WABC radio right now. That's 77 WABC or 770 WABC. All WABC radio. This is important. WABC, WABC radio, WABC radio. You can either get it on an app or you can go to, I think it's WABC radio. Let me see if I can read this. It's WABCradio.com, or follow us at Twitter at 77 WABC radio. This is a 50,000 watt heritage monster station. This is where I first started my New York career. And this is the last time I was in there was like 20. Well, actually, no, it was. Yeah, 27 years ago. 27 years ago. So from 27 years, I'm back doing this incredible return to surface, so to speak. Anyway, that's going on right now. So please do that. Join us. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you so much for your kindness. Thank you so much for your patronage, for spending time, adding your genius to this. Again, WAB, I said that. Lionel Nation, Lionel Legal, and also July 17th, this coming Saturday, I'm going to be at the Cutting Room in New York City, gracing the stage, storming the stage for an event that's going to be, well, you can't even put into words exactly how it works. In any event, thank you, my friends. Have a great and a glorious day. Let me grab some Joe, fill up my mug, as it were. Let me thank you again. In any event, have a great and a glorious day. Thank you so much for spending such an early part of your day. I love you madly. Love doing this because I want to teach you. I want to teach you how to think. I want to teach you how to think like a lawyer, teach you how to think like a prosecutor. Ask yourself specifically the questions you need to know. In any event, have a great day, my friends. We'll talk to you later. Until then, remember, my friends, remember, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Da. Now, pardon my thumb.